It's happening. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are the newly appointed CEOs of DC Studios. We're here to tell you about Chapter 2.
Again, we say this every time. When this comes out on the podcast feed, it'll be like 9 months from now, and so this is going to be old news.
Just super relevant still.
You guys will have already been fired as the new heads up.
That's right.
Yeah. The rotation already has gone all the way through. No, that's not what this is. As much fun as that would be to run with that bit for an hour straight, which I know we would all love to do. This is, in fact, Ideas Don't Bleed. It's a comic book podcast from Ashcan Press with Matthew Rosenberg. What is this? What is this? That's on the cover art.
I know. I make you say it, and it sounds weird every time. I don't know why I said we have to say that, but we do.
I think you just don't like doing a podcast. You hear the introduction, and every time you go,
he's barely doing it.
I am barely. Barely doing. I definitely found myself the other day. Someone was like, I was in a comic shop, and I was like, yeah, I gotta get this thing, I'm interviewing this person on my podcast. I want to, have the issues. And they were like, you have a podcast? What's it called? And I just went, don't listen to it. And I didn't even tell them the name. I just moved on.
A really similar thing happened to me recently where someone was talking about Substack, which has never happened in my life. But someone was talking about Substack unprompted. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. I work on Substack. All my stuff is through there, like podcasts and stuff. And like, you have a Substack podcast, huh? And I was like, we're not going to talk about it. That's fine.
I did a podcast for a bit. I couldn't really handle it all on my own. Like, it was too much work.
I don't find that to be that much work. I don't work that hard.
Right. But I told a friend of mine, I was like, oh, I started a podcast, and he just put his arm on my shoulder. He said, of course you did, Dick. Of course. It's like, all right.
Hell yeah.
It's ideas. Well, I do think they're cool. I mean, I wish I was kind of still doing it because it was a good excuse to talk to people. I was doing like in-person chats rather than, this is before COVID, because I liked the excuse of chatting. I don't know if you find it, Matt, like sometimes you go to conventions. What I loved about them at the start and still do is you do get to have some genuine creative chats, and you come away from it firing. I had that with New York, the recent one, because I hadn't been to the New York Comic Con in 3 years. I came back buzzing to make stuff, but you don't always get to do that at shows. Sometimes you get too bogged into whatever you're doing. So I liked doing that. It just was a lot of work on top of actual what pays the bills, and I don't know, but I think it's cool what you got going here. Like, it's pretty sweet.
It's I
you know what, I'll step in. I'll take over.
No, it's funny because I really do. It is both a COVID thing of like, oh, I'm not doing cons right now, and so it's nice to see people I don't get to hang out with you and all these other people that I don't normally see. But yeah, it is really fun for me to like look at other people's stuff and not just passively sort of take it in, like, oh, I'm reading a comic, but I'm actually like consuming people's work in a very critical way and then getting to talk to them about it and question them. And that stuff is the stuff that really like energizes me about making comics. Yeah. And I don't do it enough. So this sort of forces my hand to be like, this, sort of looking at my friends' work and being like, why is this good? Why do I like it? And that's fun for me. So,
well, for your listeners, I'm DECLAN SHALVEY. I'm going to do the job you're not doing.
Yeah, let's bring out our special guest.
Before you can thank me for being here, and I say thanks,
there.
And I say thanks for having me. I'm just going to say you're welcome. I'm very happy to be here on Ideas Don't Bleed. It is Ideas Don't Bleed, right?
It is, yeah. You got it right.
It is.
Yeah. Welcome, Declan. We're going to do a little clap.
Yeah.
There we go.
My first podcast, people.
I will say you are definitely better at this than me, and at any point you're welcome to do it. Take it over.
You took the wheel with such confidence that Matt just leaned back.
The hardest part of doing a podcast is making sure that Ethan and Griffin get their meals 3 times a day.
Right.
Yeah. If we don't feed them, they get hungry. They get cranky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently you got to feed them. Who knew you had to feed podcasters?
Yeah.
Well, we keep emailing Rosenberg, and we're like, "Hey Matt, can you send some food over? Could you DoorDash some food to my address?"
I don't DoorDash it. I hand deliver it. I show up.
It's a real
He feeds you from his own mouth like a bird. You know, he sustains you that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pandemic, but you do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to barf into people's mouths.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people who are excited. Dave is excited. Sketch says, "Congrats to Declan, the new host of Ideas Don't Bleed." I think it's in the works.
Hey, got to give the people what they want, you know.
Of course,
it's fair. I'm moving on because I'm going to be the new host of David Harper's podcast. So
nice.
It's wow. Yeah. We're all getting.
By the time he mixed it up a bit, you know, going back to his old theme song. I mean, you know.
Yeah. We're gonna. Yeah. I thought it was time that his podcast got bad, so I'm going to take it over and really run with it.
I think a lot about that time that you were like, I was listening to another podcast and I was like, why is this so good? We're so bad at this. And we were like, what podcast? And you were like, Conan O'Brien's. And we were like, what? Why are you comparing yourself to Conan O'Brien's podcast?
I mean, that I've been doing this for like 6 episodes at that point. It's like I should be like as good as I'm going to get. And it's not very good.
Okay.
It's worrying. I don't know. Now I think
I'm looking forward to being the best guest. You know, the what's Timothy Oliphant of the Conan.
Yeah,
what I'm going for.
Yeah. I mean, you're already the best guest. You've already got that. It's a
best.
I've just been quietly going. When is he asking me? Like Ed Brisson, really? Like,
yeah. Ed, we've only had Ed on with Kelly Thompson. I didn't have him on separately, and
so he's a half a guest.
He's a half guest, yeah,
or a quarter. Kelly probably took more of that.
Kelly takes more, talks more. Yeah, it's a quarter guest, and you know, I don't think we're gonna promote him past that. I talked to him. He has a bunch of new stuff coming out that looks really cool that I'm excited about. Probably not gonna promote it.
Yeah.
So, Declan, let's do an actual conversation that isn't just us sitting around bullshitting. We have some questions for you. We wanted to just peel back the curtain of who you are and why you are the way you are. If that's all right.
It's I've got a lot of layers. 2. I've got
it's
2
true.
layers.
2 layers.
That's
a lot.
Peel back one.
We're gonna peel back at least one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a crappy onion, but we'll go.
A 2-layer onion sounds good to me. Sounds like just less work.
Sounds easy. Yeah.
It's like not a lot
I appreciate a 2-layer onion.
As long as you're crying by the end of it, then you know.
Yeah. I would love it if one of us cried at the end of this, but I want to earn it. I don't want that forced.
The crying happens in the quick quiz, Matt. Let's be real.
Okay.
So I guess the first question we always sort of ask people, just as a sort of general get to know you, even though we know you, is why comics? Like, why do you make comics? What made you fall in love with comics? Why are you here?
Oh man, I'd be dead otherwise. You know what I mean? Like comics.
That's a good shit.
No, it's all I ever really did, and you know, I was just really happy when I found out people got paid to do it. I've told this story before, but I remember Marvel used to do this kind of vision.
Oh, Declan, you're frozen. We got nothing.
Like as soon as we started getting into the meat of the episode.
I'm gonna guess what he was gonna say.
All right. Yeah, you just take over.
If
he's the new host of Ideas Don't Bleed, you're the new Declan Shalvey.
Oh, that's not bad.
Should we kick him out and let him back in?
Oh, here he is. He's back.
How about we try this?
I just started to answer the first question. You kicked me off.
We're gonna do a seamless cut. You said something about Marvel Vision.
Yeah. So Marvel had
Marvel had a magazine. I think it was called Marvel Vision at the time, and they would do things like interviews with creators and sort of stuff. And I remember Andy Kubert. They were promoting Kazar at the time, and he mentioned like what his contract was or something. And I went into my mom and I asked, like, "Is that a lot of money?" And she went, "Oh, yeah." I was like, "All right, great, okay." I like just how all I needed to know was what the top artist of Marvel was making, and then I knew it would be fine.
But also, why did Marvel publish that? Why?
I don't know. Yeah, there was. I can't remember the specifics, but there was a number there.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know if it was like maybe it was ballpark or something, but.
Yeah.
But I was kind of drawing comics before I knew what comics were. I would like watch Star Trek and draw comics of it afterwards, and I think it was slowly you could get a lot of newsstand comics like licensed stuff for like the Turtles or Mickey Mouse and stuff like that. So see it around. So I was kind of absorbing it without realizing it. But it was the X-Men, Spider-Man, Batman cartoon. You know, I was just listening to an interview with Clayton Coles on the Off Panel podcast, and like his origin story was the same as mine. Like, you know, yes, I plugged David Harper's podcast, but it was. I don't know. Like, I'm from the west of Ireland. Unless it's hurling, no one really gives a toss about what you do. So for me to like comics it was just such a weird thing. But I don't know. I think when it's different now where you can be into so much weird stuff and everyone just accepts it. But like you kind of had to like really go all in on stuff you were interested in when I was young. You know, if it was weird, like you were going to get bullied or shit kicked out of you. So you really had to commit. And I think there's something for that, you know. But yeah, I think it was just in my DNA before I really realized what it like technically was. And once I don't know, I started seeing the American stuff, it just kind of blew my brain open, and I fell in.
Yeah, I was sort of wondering about that because when you started, you did a bunch of European stuff to start, and it was I mean you did something in like Judge Dredd magazine, and you had a bunch of like small press European things. Was American comics always your goal from when you started? Was that where you want to be?
Yeah, no, a lot of people would have been reading 2000 AD of my generation, but I was way too square. Like, you know, I'd like that stuff now. I like that genre now, but at the time I was I loved the Americans. I wanted to read Spider-Man and X-Men. You know, I was the superhero stuff I was mad into. So I never really had that huge affinity for 2000 AD. So I never really chased my path. Kind of the thing you do with this side of the Atlantic was you'd make a name for yourself in the UK. And then from the UK, 2000 AD, you would go to like Marvel, DC. That was kind of the, you know, the general path for people. But I wasn't. I mean, I would have taken these or 2000 AD work order offered to me. But the only thing I did with 2000 AD was it was like a small press competition basically, where you handed something in and they picked it. So it wasn't work, and it didn't lead to work. So that wasn't really the bad ever. So yeah, I didn't go that way. But then I don't know. I went to UK conventions, and clearly there was a lot of American guests would come over and stuff. So I just set my sights there. I definitely took some UK work because that was what was available to me. I did a couple of like graphic novels, like a Frankenstein one, a Sweeney Todd one. But it was I was offered 28 Days Later at Boom Studios, and that was my first American work. And from there, I kind of just kept firing away. And that for me was the platform to try to be seen by Marvel editors and get my stuff seen there. So I don't know. It's kind of mad to think about it now, like all these goals, and I managed to make them. And I can't even imagine. Honestly, couldn't have imagined to see me where I am now is kind of bonkers.
Yeah. Did you?
Real quick. You mentioned American stars coming over for conventions. Were there any that you tried to meet that you were freaking out about?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, there was like editors. I remember Bob Schreck and Scott Dunbier came over, and I remember like I had a Batman sample. I'm like, this is it. I'm getting picked up. Like I've got this great portfolio. I'm going to get work, and like they in the best way possible shot me down so hard. Like they weren't mean or anything. They just were like, you're not there. And I was like, but like, I came away from Ireland, you know. But I'm trying to think the names.
I'm sure you wanted to meet Andy Kubert and borrow some money from him. Was probably a big
knowing what he get. Actually, you know what? I've never met him. Out of all the people I've met in the industry, I've never met Andy Kubert. And he was my guy. Like
he's great. He's so nice.
What I expect you to say otherwise on a public.
I mean, it'd be awesome if I was like, he's awful, he's terrible, don't meet him. But he actually is super nice. I signed with him once, and he was just so kind to me. And I like, you know, me being an X-Men fanboy at heart, was kind of like
because that was when I got into X-Men. Jim Lee had gone, so I was reading I caught some reprints. There was UK reprints, but when I got the American comics, it was Andy Kubert on that book for like years.
Yeah.
So he was sort of my guy. But I'm trying to think. I mean, there were some big UK guys. And I got to meet like Liam Sharp and Jock. I'm trying to think of the big American. Joe was more. No, I don't think Alan Davis was big for me as well, but they were all UK guys. Who the hell came from? Kevin Nolan, Mike Mignola. Actually, Kevin Nolan was huge. I never thought I'd get to meet him.
Yeah, it's great.
But there's so many conventions over the years. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, right.
Who was I the most nervous to meet? Yeah, sorry, I've drawn blank. Sorry.
Are there people now that you were like, oh, I still want to meet that person? Do you have that?
Andy Kubert.
Sure.
I met Adam Kubert at the recent New York Comic Con. I'd never talked to him, but he bought one of the X-Men pages I did, the Wolverine vertical thing. And I just wanted to go up and I'm like, but if he bought a page of mine, he knows who I am.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I went over to say hi, and he just kind of like looked at me blankly. And I was like, you bought a Wolverine page? He was like, oh, and then he knew who I was. It was fine. But just for 1 second there, I felt 14 again. Sorry, what was the question?
Just if there's other creators out there who you like want to meet, if you have like, a list of people.
You know, I've been very lucky. I've gotten to meet pretty much all my heroes.
Yeah, right. Nice.
I was at a bar next to Mark Bagley one time, but I never said anything to him.
Oh man,
and he was my Spidey guy.
Sure.
Steve Dillon, I wanted to talk to because I grew up on Preacher, but I was doing the covers to Punisher when he was drawing it with Becky Toonan. Yeah. And I really wanted to say hi to him. His table was only like a little bit away from me, but I was too chicken shit, and then he died a week later.
Oh, jeez.
Have I brought up my Mark Bagley thing on this show?
No.
I went to an Oklahoma convention when I was a kid, and Mark Bagley was there, and that was the person I wanted to meet the most. And I went with my mother, who had to push me because I was so nervous to meet Mark Bagley. And then I went up to him and I was like, hi, I love Ultimate Spider-Man. And he was like, which one was that? And I was like, you fuck. I'm so nervous already. Why are you doing this to me?
There are guys who like to fuck with you. And when you're a kid, you don't appreciate. When you're older, you get it.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was really good.
When you say I went to an Oklahoma Oklahoma convention, it just sounds like a convention for Oklahoma and
for the musical Oklahoma.
It was for the musical.
Mark Bagley's doing a new poster for Oklahoma.
Oh, that would be sick.
He'd do a great poster.
Sick.
Yeah.
I'd be really into it.
I was just trying to think, but I'm lucky. I've gotten to meet like Alan Davis, Kevin Nolan, Frank Miller. I met briefly one time. Like I've gotten to see everyone, or JP Leon. All my guys I've gotten to meet, aside from Matt Rosenberg. I mean,
that was a big one for you. Yeah.
But I think
we got to meet formally in person very briefly.
We did see.
You seemed very nervous to meet us. Yeah,
I mean,
check that box.
Sometimes it just doesn't live up to what you're expecting. You know?
I know.
Just, how can it? No. I think I'm very, very lucky. I've gotten to meet pretty much all my heroes. But I'd say maybe it's probably Andy Kubert's my great whale.
The one, I mean, I feel the same. Like I've met almost all my.
Sorry, I could have met Stan Lee one time. I was in the same room as him, but I didn't. It was me and Will Sliney, my friend Will Sliney, and we were both like, no, we leave him alone. We don't want to bother him. Like, and then we found out afterwards, like, he loves being bothered. He should have gone up to him.
I met Stan as a kid and as an adult, and he was exactly what you want him to be both times. I met him as as a child, and then like as a Marvel writer, and he was
also technically a child.
As a much larger child, and he was great. But the one for me that I always think about of like meeting your heroes, and then I mean I probably shouldn't tell the story on the air, but fuck it. I was already making stuff and I was doing conventions, and I was just walking down through Artist Alley because I hate sitting at a table, so I like to wander. And I just walked past Larry Hama's table, and Larry Hama was there. And I don't know what compelled me, but I just went up, and he was like drawing, and I just went up to him and I was like, "Excuse me, sir, like I just want to say," and I just like dumped like a therapist. I was like, I was sort of a lonely kid, and like and like for me GI Joe was everything, and you created this world that like I could disappear into, and it meant so much to me, and like I just went on and on about it, and then it was like, and now I've grown up, and like I'm very happy with who I am as a person, and I live a life that I'm really proud of, and I make comics and I make things and I use my imagination, and it was like cultivated by you. And like, I just wanted to thank you for like giving me a childhood where I felt like safe and I belonged, and like helping push me towards this dream of like an adulthood where I really get to do a thing I love.
I really feel like Larry Hama right now.
And he was sitting next to, I don't remember who it was. It was some like legendary person who just looked at me and was like, that was really intense. And I was like, yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Called you out on the spot.
Yeah. And Larry was like, well, thank you. That's very nice. And he was like perfectly nice. And I was just like, well, I can never be in a room with him again. Like, I just
trying to think how to the degree I know you, if somebody did that to you, how much of a dick you'd have been back to them.
Oh, awful. I would have run like 10 minutes into it. I'd be gone. I'd be like, I'm sorry, I actually have a thing. Like, thank you for reading. It would just be so uncomfortable.
Have you had like an experience like that where somebody has kind of not to that degree because that's insane.
Yeah, that's insane.
But has somebody made you really feel something? Because people say nice things and they can say stuff means to it. But like, trying to think, has that really gotten to you?
A couple that are there. I mean, I've had a ton of amazing encounters where people say just things that kind of floor me about how nice they are. But a couple of people have tattoos of stuff I've done and show me, and that's always heavy. And
it's tough for me because I'm like, I wish I'd drawn that better.
Yeah, people get tattoos of my stuff, and I'm like, that's a Tyler Boss tattoo, or that's a like there was a couple who got we're gonna get the We Can Never Go Home cover as their wedding presents. They were each gonna get one of the characters, and I was kind of like, that's not necessarily a great thing. But I was also like, that's Michael Walsh art. I didn't fucking draw that. You're getting a Walsh art. Like, I don't.
There is a weird disconnect with like how much stuff like that can mean to people, and how much stuff like that meant to you when you were a kid. And like, I'm not trying to sound bad, but like, I don't really care about Moon Knight that much. Like, I don't love the character in the same way like a lot of the fans of the book loved the character. I loved the experience, and the creative part of it was great for me. But like, I don't. There's some. It's weird, even though like you're working on something, people can come to you with a level of engagement and passion that like isn't really connected to you as much. And you don't want to be like, you idiot, it's just a comic book. Because you've been there about other stuff, like it's like say with comics might be different, but like when I see like maybe actors in shows I used to, like I see Star Trek actors sometimes, I don't want to bother them because like to me they were so huge, and I've actually had met them and they're perfectly nice, but sometimes the more you respect somebody, the less you want to meet them. I know.
Sure. I've had the two that really like messed me up in a nice way was I had a person in person pull me aside at a convention and tell me this, and I had a person write me a long email about how they were like in a really dark place and like sort of talking about suicide and self-harm and how something I made sort of helped pull them out of it. And like, that's a fucking heavy thing that I don't think you can prepare for, where you're just like, I don't know how to say any, like, you want to say the perfect thing and there's no good thing to say there other than like, I'm just really happy you're still here and you're okay. And like, and then, I try and think about the things that matter to me like that when I was a kid that like really felt like they were saving my life and changing my life. And whether
like I've moved home from Dublin recently, so I'm kind of meeting all these people who know nothing about comics or people from my past and stuff like that, and it's been a real kind of to remind myself how far I've come and what I've gotten to do and how lucky I am to like wake up and have ideas and make them, and that's my job, like it's you can get very, I know people might think it sounds like a dickhead thing to say, but like you can get jaded even doing this, like
for sure
basically childhood dream. You can get very, very jaded, especially when you're creatives and you meet up and you're bitching about companies or some guy who annoyed you. Like you can get into the negative too much, but that kind of like realization is huge. And then to kind of like we were saying, to have that kind of experience come at you, that doesn't happen to me in Ireland because we can't be sincere.
Sure.
I can't really, you just don't say what you mean. No, it doesn't. You just can't do that. But I have to be aware of that when I go to America, somebody may get sincere with me and I'll be uncomfortable straight away.
And you'll be like, Moon Knight is not my thing. And then you push them. You just
exactly,
no, it's funny because you talk about like the how jaded we can get. And that for me is like such a major thing of like the tightrope of like, remembering it's a job and this is my day job, and like any job there's difficulties and problems, but also like it's the best job I've ever had. It's the best job I'm ever going to have. And like, there are 1,000 people behind me who wish they had it. And like, that's sort of the perspective. Like, you can never lean one way too far or the other, because I think you get out of whack if you forget that like, we have a dream job, but part of that is the job.
Well, I mean, here's something, I don't know if this would have come here on the podcast before, but like, how much do you think like a creator's personality comes into play? Because, you know, again, explaining this job to normies and stuff is one thing, but then like the amount of amazing artists I know who their career gone nowhere because no matter how talented they are, they just get in their own way.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, there was like, that made me name something, like I knew somebody was on a book and, you know, they couldn't get a book in because there wasn't enough pressure for them to be on deadline. And then they put pressure on deadlines and they couldn't handle that. And this person was unbelievably talented. Like, and, you know, I say this off to people often, like there's people way more talented than me that are not as successful and people way more talented than me that are way less successful. So I think I said that's the same thing twice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, people who might be way more talented, but like they get too angry or they get too or people who are just brilliant at playing the game and can take a certain amount of talent much, much further. And sometimes it's just kind of like, you know, I think one thing I'm glad for is, I don't know, maybe the way I was raised or whatnot, but my temperament and my ability to kind of like read the room and not be too much of a dickhead sometimes, like, has helped probably way more than however good I am at drawing.
Yeah. I think, you know, I think about that a lot, because when I started, I sort of tried to take stock of like who I was as a creator. And, you know, like, I read a lot of comics and I'm a huge comics nerd. And I just knew going in, and sort of a mantra I made for myself was like, you're never going to be the best writer in the room. Like, you're just not. Like, there are just writers who are better than me, like pound for pound, just better writers. And I was like, but the one thing I can control is how hard I work and how much hustle I put in. And that to me is like, yeah, I'm the dude who, you know, will stay up until 6 a.m. and get this thing done. Whereas like a better writer might take off at 7 p.m. and go do things. And I'm like, well, that's my leg up. Like, would you rather have this other writer doing this? Probably, but they're not going to get it in time, or they're not going to say yes, and I'll do it. And like, I think that's
sometimes you got a gig because you were the person who was there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I think everybody gets that. But like, part of that is being there. Part of that is being available to be there. You have to like, for me, I'm like, you know, I spent years when they would be like, do you have time to do this? Being like, yes. And like, I don't even consider, I don't check, I just say yes. And then I figure out the time. I mean, I've had 2 years.
Did you notice? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I've had 2 years. I think 2, maybe 3. I had more last year. I had more DC books with my name on them than any other creator had with their name on them, and I've done that at Marvel too. That I put out more books at Marvel in a year that I was at Marvel than anyone else that year, and I put out more books at DC last year than anyone else.
Is that good?
No. No. Why would that be good? You know,
it can be, you know, because that's the thing is like, you know, being real, like, you can do the job and you can work the job.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I remember, I think I talked to Rick Remender one time and I asked him, does he think he has too many books out? And he said, what do you think? And I said, yeah, I do. Because as a fan of yours, I realize I'm picking books.
For sure.
Not getting all of them. I'm picking, if you've got 4 books out, I'm picking probably 2.
Yeah.
But like, so there's the saturation element. I think that works against artists too. If you've more than 1 book out in a month, people aren't necessarily buying both books. They'll maybe buy 1, you know, and like you also can't control how your stuff comes out. You can't, you know, line up your schedule at Marvel and DC and like this book will come out here and then. So it's a tricky tightrope to
it's also fascinating for you because like, you spent years as an artist, so you're at best on a book a month, and now you're writing stuff and drawing stuff. You're going to be on 4 or 5 books a month coming up, like.
Nah. I mean, well, maybe 3 when Alien comes out. It'll probably be 3 books because I'm co-write Time for Time, and I'm writing and drawing Old Dog and writing Alien. But at the same time, I think there was a huge thing about like if you're not in the stands, people will forget about you.
Sure,
and they 100% will, but. At the same time, I think going away for a little while can build a little bit of anticipation.
Yeah.
So by the time Old Dog came out, I hadn't had a book in print for most of a year. Well, no, like covers and stuff that keeps you that keeps you out there. But I think being too available can probably be a bad thing sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
Or being too visible. I think you'd think you'd have to be visible all the time, but I think, well, one, that's not sustainable, because like I can't even do a book a month anymore. It probably takes me 2 months to do a book now. So you're instantly straight there. There's six issues a year then at best.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what I did with Old Dog is I planned for that. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to do 6 issues. I'm going to make them the best 6 issues I can possibly do, rather than, which is what I was doing, was running myself ragged, trying to do. I mean, we all need to do it, and I'm not crapping on it at all. It's kind of like a ring of fire any creator has to kind of jump through, of hitting your max where you can't do this anymore, and then you figure out what you can do.
Yeah.
And I'm in a fairly good place now where I have a good sense of what I can and can't do, and I'm not too bothered about being on the stands every month. But which, between writing and drawing and coloring and covers, I have something coming out every month. It's just not always a comic, and I don't want any less than 6 issues a year, though. That would drive me crazy.
Yeah. I had a gap when I switched from Marvel to DC. I had a gap, and it was like right in the early days of the pandemic. But I was like building stuff at DC that had long lead times, and I was building a lot of stuff. I was on 4 books for them all of a sudden, but like there was a good 5 months where I didn't have anything out, and it felt wild to me. I felt like I was just like, I felt like it was in like Back to the Future, like I was just becoming invisible and starting to fade away. Which
you must have a good sense of what you can and can't do by now. Like,
no,
I mean, some things change. It depends. Sometimes, like, all of a sudden we need a script now. You need to have a little bit of wiggle room for that to happen, or you need to do like another draft. Some things you can't necessarily plan for.
I have a good sense, but also like the longer I do this, the harder it is. Like when you start, you've got something to prove. Like I spent years being like, I'm going to prove who I am. And now it's like, well, they know who I am. I don't need to like wow people. What I need to do is like not die in the next 4 years. So like it becomes a thing of like, physically, like, can I maintain this pace? Can I do this? So like, it's hard because I know that like I could make myself do things, but it's harder emotionally to like really run myself raw. I feel like I'm at a place where I did it for 5 straight years, basically 5 or 6 years. And I'm at a place where I find it hard to justify doing it a lot.
Are you able to step back and kind of look at your career now and go, I'm in a good place, or I want to be somewhere else? Or
no, God, no. I hope I'm never in that place. I hope I'm always like hungry and looking up. Why do you?
No, sorry, I don't mean it necessarily as like I've done it. I'm here. Well, kind of to a degree, I guess, but like, you know what kind of creator you want to be.
Yeah.
And does that match up with?
No.
Okay. Has it ever been closer, or has it been?
Yeah, it has. I feel like there's certain books where you're like, yeah, this book is what I want to be doing all the time, and there's certain books where you're like, this isn't where I want to be. Like, I'm not putting out a thing that I feel is up to my standard, is not the kind of thing I want to be putting out in the world. And it's hard because it's hard to figure out what those books are. Like I'm really proud of, I did 27 issues on Punisher. Like I'm really proud of that. But if you asked me beforehand, like, do you think Punisher will be a book that you're like come out of it really proud of? I'd be like, Punisher? Probably not. Like, and I love the Punisher, but like,
no, but I mean, these are like, I remember when I was offered Moon Knight, to me it was like, okay, this is my Daredevil. I'll probably never get to do Daredevil, but this is going to be the Daredevil books I wanted to do. I'm going to make this my Daredevil, and it works. Weirdly, like, it became its own thing. And would I have ever imagined Moon Knight was the book that would kind of make me? I couldn't have seen that. But I just kind of think, to me, it feels like you came out the gate so strong with your creator-owned work, and then you're kind of in the Marvel mines for so long.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like now you're in a place where you're doing both in a more balanced way, it seems to me.
Yeah. I feel like more like when we do What's the First Place from here, like working with Tyler is like, it just feels like a very different thing for me. And it feels very natural and good. And like, I sit down to write those scripts and I just feel like energized in a way that like sometimes you don't from other scripts and other projects. And I think that speaks to like what you're getting at. Like, I think finding those projects that like you're hungry to get out there and do, and it's never feels like a job, is sort of where I want to be. And I think a lot of that comes from, I mean, I've been very lucky, like working with Ben Abernathy at DC, like, you get there a lot. He's so encouraging and gets you excited about the book, but like creator owned obviously has just the leg up in that regard of just like, well, it's yours.
But you probably have way more confidence now as a work for hire hand than you did when you're starting out. I mean, Thunderbolts was my first book, and I was basically just do the best you can and be good to work with, and you've got to prove your earn your phrase.
But also like things change so fast. Like you work with new people, you work with new editors, like management changes at a company, and you're like, there's not sure footing because a lot of things are like how other people view you. It's not how you view yourself in some ways.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And so like, you can work with people who you love and get along with, and then they move on or, whatever. And then you're like, well, it's a new relationship. Like, do I have to go back to square one and try and prove myself to them? And I don't know, like, you feel like you're at a place creatively where you feel really comfortable, like people know what they're going to get. And is that good?
That's a good point, because sometimes you can get cocky. I kind of think I was kind of worried there for a while that Moon Knight was the last, not good thing, like, because I loved working on Injection, but like nothing. The one thing that stayed popular was Moon Knight, and like I'm like, that book came out in 2014. Is like, do I want that to be the best thing I've ever done? I mean,
yeah,
anyone's amazing to get a project like that, but I want more of those.
Sure.
And I think I'm actually in a good place where I can pick. I just want to write and draw my own stuff now. Not that I'll never draw for someone else again. I just think that's what's satisfying me more. And even if it's like I did a Hulk one shot that I wrote and drew, and this one is the most satisfying things I've done. It's just a one-off, one issue. I'm in a place where I don't have to go begging for work, which sounds, I'm trying to sound like a twat, but like there's a lot of people who are just trying to find the next gig, and I realize I'm in a place where I'm kind of making my own gigs, which is pretty cool. And especially like now that I've kind of gone all in on a creator-owned book, it's literally like, I mean, it's draining and it's tough. It's a lot of work. But the knowing that I can just come up with something and write it and draw it, and I can make a living on it, it's been really, honestly, it's satisfying but empowering.
Yeah,
it's been really empowering, and not that I'd never do, like I'm writing stuff at Marvel at the moment, but I just think I'm in a good place, and as long as I don't, I think it's easy to fall. It's easy to fall down another level on the ladder if you're not careful, because you're scared. And I think when COVID happened and everything, I remember thinking I could just take any gig that was offered to me, and I got offered a couple of gigs, and they weren't bad gigs at all. But I just knew, you know what, I want to write and draw, so I'm only gonna write and draw stuff. And then John Hickman asked if I do the X-Men thing, and I said, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, sure.
But that was my own caveat. Okay, it's Jonathan Hickman, biggest writer at Marvel. Like it's worth doing this for like a few months and then continue on your plan. But I think, but it's also scary, and I think that's the key. If you're scared, if you're a little scared, that's good. If you're totally just kind of blasé about stuff, I think the work won't be good. But if you are scared and you want, doing everything like I am an old dog is scary. And while that could cripple you, I've decided to go like, you know what? No, this is good. Like being scared is a good thing. Run with it.
For sure. First of all, I want to say congrats on being the first person on our podcast to say twat. Like, bravo for that.
Okay, I got more. I got more to thank.
Yeah, no, it brings a real Irish charm to it that I think we've been missing, and we're going to try and get that on.
We've been having to put them in post for everybody else.
Yeah,
since going back to the west of Ireland, I've been hearing way more swear words I have not heard in many years. None of which I think would be suitable for this podcast. But
I remember going. You were signing in New York, and this is a fucking tangent, but you were signing in New York, and I went and we hung out, and you were like, oh, like the bunch of Marvel people are at a bar, like, do you want to come with me and we'll go? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And we went up there, and we went to this bar in Midtown, and we're sitting down, and it's a lot of the junior editors were there, and they're like, sort of younger and sort of bright-eyed and enthusiastic, and you were telling a story and you used a swear word that is very common to use overseas and not as common to use here. It starts with the letter C, and a bunch of the editors did a legitimate like, and I was like, oh, I love this so much. I love it because it's like, if you go to Ireland, you go to England, it's not a big deal. People say it all the time, but over here it's great.
It's a phrase I heard before. Over here, it's like punctuation.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great moment because you said it, and I was like, I just immediately like looked at everybody and was like, oh yeah, that's a lot of people like not quite sure how to process. And you weren't saying it like in the way that Americans say it, where it's like vitriolic and nasty. You say it in a very casual way, and it was great. Real high point in my career, actually.
Well, but I'm glad I didn't tank my own career there.
No, you seem to be doing okay. No, but I the point about being scared, like, yeah, I think the fear is really good. Like the converse for me, I think I maybe even said this on the show before once, but I remember talking to Brian K. Vaughan about something, and I think I gave him a copy of We Can Never Go Home when the trade paperback came out. He'd like said some nice things about it and had been very kind to me. And so he came to New York, or maybe I was in LA. I don't remember where I was, but I gave him a copy of the book, and he was like, oh, cool. Thank you. And he was like, are you happy with it? Which I thought was a really interesting question. And I was like, and I sort of paused, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, it was a long pause. And I was like, a lot of stuff I do different. I was like, my first creator-owned book, a lot of stuff I do different. And he was like, hold on to that. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I got to stop saying like, he just sort of said, that wanting, when you look back on your work and you're happy, you're not hungry anymore. There's no, you're content and you're resting and you're settling. And like, you should always be able to look back on your work and feel like I could do this better. I want to hit it better next time. I want to knock it out of the park. And like learning from your mistakes and studying your work and like trying to see where you can step up and where you can change things and improve things. And I really take that to heart. And like, I mean, I don't think I'm a person who would ever look back at my work and be like, yeah, that was awesome. And like high five.
Fist bump in the air.
Yeah. Just like nailed it again. But I do.
A lot of this stuff comes with muscle memory,
yeah.
Like, this is my own controversial take, but like, a lot of people are complaining about, how sexist superhero costumes can be, and how, the way like the female form can be and idealized and whatnot. I have to kind of look back at all the old superhero drawings. You realize those guys were knocking out 2 pages a day. Like, they're not, I'm not saying they're not thinking about what they're doing, but like, so much of like drawing is muscle memory, and you're drawing nude figures and you draw a belt on them, and then that's a superhero costume. People expect a different level of illustration now, so you kind of have to really dig in more. But but if I'm not careful, I'll draw the same face every time. I need to kind of go back and change a bigger nose or different ethnicity or something. Sometimes you just kind of, because you're getting it done. If you're again talking to like normal people here, I was talking to somebody, they're like, how do you get, I think I just did a cover and I sent it to them just to show them, like, you did that in a day. I was like, yeah. And they're like, they were like, that's amazing. And I'm like, I wish I'd gotten it done faster. And you just kind of forget that, a lot of this stuff, with the grind that comes with it, you can just kind of rely on what you know. Yeah. And the same with writing, you can just kind of relax on what you know. And it's, especially when you're getting success and you're getting more gigs.
I mean, I see it in people's books, and I catch myself doing it in my own books. Sometimes I catch myself too late, but you'll do like, oh, this fight with this supervillain is in an empty warehouse, and you're just like, a warehouse? Like, why are these people in fucking warehouses? And it's just like, it's just simple. It's muscle memory.
It's a time for time, because we literally have, I think we have written warehouse locations in nearly every issue, but that's a staple of the book. I say that with pride.
Yeah, that's part of the DNA of Time Before Time is the warehouses. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shortcuts like that, even in writing, where you're just like, yeah, this conversation is done in a way that like, you're not challenging yourself. You're like, I know what I have to get out of this scene, and I'm just going to get it down, and you can see it. And like, the interesting thing is always seeing people who can take those scenes and elevate them. And like, I assume in, my feeling in art is like, that's always the real challenge, is like that was something that I thought early on was like when I was first trying to make comics and I was looking at all these artist portfolios and everyone is showing you, Batman perched on a roof and the Hulk punching through a wall. And I was like, yes, everyone has a Batman and a Hulk. That's cool. I want to see you have two people have dinner in a diner. And will that be dynamic? And will I care about that? Can you elevate that to be something that's visually interesting to me? And like, it's one of the reasons that I'm always sort of in awe of artists, because it's just like, it's a thing that I can't even wrap my head around doing, of like making something that's beautiful and storytelling and all these things and it's so physically demanding and precise and like doing it consistently. I'm always like, I bet I could train myself if I gave myself 5 years to go real hard. I bet I could train myself to draw like an okay page, but I bet the next page wouldn't look anything like it. I bet I could never be consistent. Like consistency scares the hell out of me.
It's tough. I was just thinking, because everyone
5 years might be optimistic.
Oh, have you written? Is Old Dog all written? And if I was smart, I would have written the whole thing before I started drawing it.
Sure.
Whereas now I'm in a stage where I'm writing and drawing the last few issues, and so I'm drawing issue 4, and I've known what I want to do for issue 5 for a while, roughly. I had the outline. I knew it in my head. But just 2 days ago, I was like, oh, that would be nice. Yeah, I could do it that way. And I have to write it next week.
Yeah.
I just find that I just need to gestate on things. Like that. I don't mean I need to do it last minute. Just that if I write it now, I'm going to have something else next week that'll make it better. So I know it's tough to say, like any kind of interesting visual stuff. I just find I just need to kind of push a script on like a slow cooker and let it just kind of go. Now, I mean, I'm trying to say this in like, this is my genius, you other people, you just write fast. It's fine. No, it's just because I don't write. I've never written scripts at the pace and say you would have done like 4 or 5 a month, God knows what. But I just find, especially for something like Old Dog, I'm getting more visual ideas. So I'm trying to let it percolate as much as possible. Whereas the smarter thing from a production point of view would have been to like have them all written in the bag and then not have to worry about them. But I know those issues wouldn't be as good as what I'm doing now, which is kind of interesting. It's an argument to be less responsible.
Sure, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. I think about that a lot when people talk about sort of superhero comics and stuff, and it's, I think people don't understand the grind and the assembly line nature of the product. That it's like all of these books would be better if you guys would wait a year and we would but that's not how the machine works. The machine has to have, 12.
Also, those books have probably never come. Like that's the other thing as well, is like these books never come out.
That's true.
Like, I consider myself a fairly responsible freelancer, but like, I get stuffed in. If I try have it in a day early if I can. Sometimes it's a day late. Sometimes it's on top. But like, as responsible as I am, at the same time, I think if you gave me 8 weeks to do a book, it would take me 8 weeks. If you gave me 12 weeks, it would take 12. You have to be those deadlines. Stuff would never get done if we didn't have these things,
That's so, I mean, I think it's true of writers, but I don't deal with writers in the same way. But I always, I used to tell people, like, artists are like a gas. They'll take up as much space as you give them. If you give them a month to draw a book, they'll figure out how to squeeze into a month. If you give them 4, it'll take them 4 months to draw the book. Their volume expands when you give them more space. And I think it's true of writing too. I think there's a lot of writers who
that was my problem with Old Dog, was because I gave myself a certain amount of time and just life came in the way. So all my lead time got eaten up.
Yeah.
Plus also, I don't know, when I'm sure when you start a new book, like development time takes a while.
Sure.
But I knew that if I didn't just say it comes out in September, it had never come out. I needed that, Now it's coming out in September. No, it's supposed to come in August. It came out in September.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to claw as much lead time as I was, because I needed it all up. But that's it. It's the constant kind of like, I need the fear of God to get something done, but at the same time, I need a certain amount of gestation time. So that's tough. It's tough when it's on you.
Yeah. I sort of want to ask about, the move from drawing and writing to just writing, and like.
So you want to ask me a question?
Yeah, is that okay?
Podcast? No, it's okay, because I think I've been doing it the other way around.
Yeah, I'd step in.
On me.
I've been a bit rusty in my podcast hosting, so I'm going to try and step in and see if I still got it. My I'm just always fascinated by like, one, did you want to write? Was that something you wanted coming up, or you just wanted to draw, or you were just like, writers are so fucking annoying? I can do
the
this
latter.
myself.
I like all these, kid writers coming up, they think they're so great. Well, I'll show them. No, when I was starting out, I just wanted to draw. Like, drawing was all I ever really wanted to do. And then I was 23 or 4, when I got my first Marvel, or no, 27. I was in my 20s when I got 27. I got my first Marvel gig, and all of a sudden I'd reached my goal, my dream.
Yeah.
Before I even hit 30, I reached my life's goal. And I think for me, it was like The Simpsons when Homer climbs like the mountain and then you see more cloud and there's like a whole other mountain. That's what it became for me. Like, it was like I just needed more goals. And I would say, I mean, I was analyzing writing for, actually, that's a great thing about drawing, is you could listen to so much stuff. Podcasts, I was listening to like, DVD extras and, creator commentaries when those were a thing.
Sure.
I was always interested in the craft of writing, but I never really had the balls to do it myself until I had the idea to do Savage Town, which is basically kind of like an Irish Sopranos, which I knew would never really get made unless I made it. And while I'm known as an artist, I could write it with some help. If I had an editor to kind of help me kind of flesh it out, I could do it, and I did. And someone drew it, and it got made. And that was really that ambition having been met. I realized I really liked writing, and I liked writing for other artists. And from a cynical point of view, being able to write your own stuff meant that you were like, when you're an artist in Marvel, you really don't know how you're kind of seen within the company. You don't know how editors see you. You don't know how writers see you, as they tell you. So, what you find out afterwards is like you were up for some gig and somebody else didn't want you on it, and there was an argument about it, and you're like, I would have liked to have been part of that argument, So I figured, like, no matter what happens art-wise, like if I said something stupid, it's entirely likely, or people didn't like my work anymore, or people didn't want to work with me anymore, at least I could just make my own stories. So there was a slight cynical aspect to it,
Sure.
But the more I wrote, the more I enjoyed it, and I really like building projects. I like working on cover design. I like coming up with plans, and I like, for lack of a better term, like being a kind of a producer. Like I helped Rory McConville and Joe Palmer put their Rise in Blood graphic novel together. I basically was a ghost editor on that. And I liked it. I liked putting stuff together like that. And that tends to be more the writer's role than the artist role, and same with doing design work. I kind of and as well, like I used to go with the colorist, one of the best colorists in the industry, and after we broke up, I realized I wasn't able to color my own work. I've been relying on her for ages to make me look good. She made me look great, but then all of a sudden I was like, I don't like not knowing how to do that. So I've kind of wanted to just expand my skill set across everything. And now I like that, except lettering. Fuck that. That's for losers. Yeah, that's right. You heard me, letters.
Holy shit.
No, I've done it and I hate it. I hate it. Even though I bought that new Todd. Sorry, who did the new book? Tom. No, that's Nate Picos. He did the lettering book. I was buying it. I bought it. I'm like, why am I buying this? I don't want to letter. But you know what? I don't like not knowing how to do something. So but writing was a key to that, and it's been a blessing, because it just means I can, there's so many great artists out there who don't. I'm sure you see it yourself, like because you work within like Marvel or DC, whatever. There's artists they'll never go with, and they're amazing. Yeah, and I'd like to make a project for them, and then people can see how great they are. It's not always not everybody can go through the Marvel DC pipeline like say I did. Sure. And I really like that. I like maybe it's just a big power trip, but writing kind of opened those doors for me, and I just found myself constantly just scratching at that itch. I don't think I could go full-time writing, like writing 4 scripts a week, 4 or 5 scripts in a month. I don't think I can handle. I think I can only really have 3 ideas in my head at the same time.
Oh, cool.
Especially working on them as well, like I have 3 at the moment.
Mhm.
I don't think I take on another book until one of them ends.
Yeah.
And I'll replace that, but because I don't know about you, but my bandwidth only expands so high, and the wider I spread it, stuff starts falling through the cracks.
Sure.
I'm not sure I answered your questions.
No, you did. I'm just like, do you ever feel like, for me, when I look at your stuff you write, whether it's stuff that you write and draw, or stuff you write for other people to draw, it feels to me like there's a clear visual sense to it. Like it has you're a great visual storyteller, and that has transferred into your ability to tell stories. I mean, I think about like an Old Dog, like there's just a lot of great sort of, you find these iconic shots and moments, and sometimes they're small, just like a close up on his eyes or whatever, or maybe it's the big splash page of him leaping across over from rooftop to rooftop or whatever. But like, you have this visual flair in your writing that I feel like is not an easy thing to find, and I think a lot of writers get credit for it because they work with artists who know how to put that into a story. And my assumption is that since I've seen you do it in other people's stories, that you've brought that over to your writing. Do you feel like there's stuff now that you write more that has impacted the way you draw? Like, do you feel like your art is being influenced by your writing at all?
No, I don't think so. But I think the drawing has filtered it. Well, maybe that's not. I think I think one of the things I'm just naturally good at with drawing is economy. Like, like I'll put in detail, but I know where not to. And I remember when I started writing, I remember thinking like it was this block of marble that had to be chiseled perfectly, like a sculpture. But what it was more like working with clay. And once I kind of got my head in around that really helped, because it was malleable. It wasn't this perfect thing to be figured out. I don't think the writing has affected the drawing, but I think the drawing is definitely, it's more of a sense of pacing and tone. I think, like, I did a graphic novel called Bog Bodies with Gavin Fullerton, and I keep saying now I wish I'd drawn it, because I wrote, there's barely any backgrounds in the fucking thing. I could have drawn it in a week. But what Gavin added to it, what I like is I can see my DNA in it, but I like what Gavin added to it made something better. I think working with like Jordi Belair for many years, I really learned the benefit of, like, if someone's got a good idea, take it. And if I was working with someone like, say, Warren Ellis or whatever, I'm not going to go, I've got a better idea than this. I'm like, well, maybe take the good ideas, because it just makes you look better anyway.
For sure.
And I think that whole experience just really kind of helped me with my writing. But I wish I could tell you, the writing has affected the drawing, but I don't think it has. But I think that while I was very worried about being a good writer, like writing good dialogue and stuff like that, I don't worry about that. Just kidding, of course I do. But I think getting the tone and getting the feel, and what I love about drawing is I love creating mood and atmosphere, and you can do that in writing as well. And especially especially with the right artist, is going to just knock that out of the park. But I feel like I'm still able to tell stories that I'd like to draw. But I realized that I don't have to. Actually, that was another reason I wanted to write more as well, as I realized I had more stories I wanted to write than I could possibly draw. And characters I'd like to write that I don't necessarily want to draw, But I think the mystique of writing kind of was pulled apart when I approached it like a design brief, if that makes sense. Like, I need to know what the format is. Is it 5 issues, or is it a graphic novel? Is it a one shot? Or and once I know what the format is, that becomes part of the brief. Like with an editor emails you wanting a cover, they want 2 characters and a certain background or whatever, and then taking that and trying to solve that problem is what writing is to me. If that makes sense.
No, for sure. I think in a way that's a very I always think about building, like constructing a page as a very mathematical sort of thing, like from an artist perspective of like figuring out the panels and the economy of the size of the panels and where everything goes. And so you're saying that you approach writing that way sort of makes sense to me, that it's sort of it's something to be solved in a way that
you know, if I took one of your scripts, you know, it's words on a page, and then you've got pages that you need to draw this stuff on. So what I always liked about comics was solving that puzzle. It's problem solving. And I was worried when I started writing that I was going to lose that experience, because that to me is comics.
Yeah.
You know, once the layouts are done, that's the comic, you know, and then unfortunately you've got to spend a month and a half drawing the fucking thing. But like that sort of magic really clicks in, and I really liked that. And I was worried, like, oh no, if I don't have that experience, am I going to enjoy this as much? But what changed was that the writing became the problem solving aspect, and that I really like. And then when I do my layouts in Old Dog, they just kind of flow. Mm-hmm. Whereas, you know, working with another writer, and it, not that they'd be bad or anything, like would happen with any writer at all, I'd be banging my head against the wall trying to make it work, because I really try to stick to the script, like 100%. Sometimes you got to tweak it, but I'm not one of those guys who just does whatever it feels like. I want to, you know, you took the time to figure this out, and I want to figure it out with you. Mm-hmm. But when I'm writing for myself, it just kind of starts at the beginning and flows downstream from there, and that's really fun.
Yeah. Are your scripts super detailed in like the layout stuff when you write for artists? Are you?
They're more detailed writing for another artist, but only because, like, say, an Old Dog script is lean, because I know what it's going to be. Also, sometimes I'll be like, you know, it takes place here, and then by the time I think there's issue 2, we see the black circle base, and it's like an abandoned island. Yeah. And that panel, right up until I was drawing it, was like a mountaintop. But in the meantime, I saw this cool. I look at a lot of websites of abandoned imagery, because I like drawing that stuff. And I saw this island. I'm like, oh, that's so much cooler than like a hilltop.
Yeah.
So sometimes I try to plan everything as much as I can, but sometimes it'll be like a 5% thing I'll pop in there. But when I'm writing for somebody else, I'm just trying to make sure sometimes I get the image that's in my head on the page. Mm-hmm. It's generally, though, very specific. Like, I think there's in Alien, I just wrote something where very specific kind of splash page, and I kind of like say what's in that. Otherwise, it'll just be like, you know, on, you know, the scientist closer. Like, I keep it fairly lean, because I think that from an artist's point of view, you want enough to go on where you know what's happening, but not so much where you can't add something.
Yeah.
If you know, and I've had that experience where there's too much in the page, and I'm basically just trying to fit in everything, which is very oppressive. And then there's the other side where there isn't enough meat for you to kind of chew on. So, you know, I think I hope I'm writing scripts that are fun to draw, because that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it seems that way to me. It seems when I look at the stuff you write for other people, like you're giving people a lot of things that seem like stuff I would feel like I would see in something you would draw, which always feels like energetic and lively and smart. And I feel like that.
I don't know how true it is. I mean, it could be a bit of projection there, you know.
Sure.
I'd have to like look at specific things, but like I do try. I would say working with Warren Ellis really kind of broke things open for me a lot, where again he had a specific idea and he'd explain and he'd put it down there, and otherwise I had so much freedom to put stuff in, and I felt like it felt more collaborative, even though he's not taking notes for me or anything like that, you know.
Sure.
And I want whoever I work with to have that same experience where they're putting in everything that they want to put in, and I don't want to be handcuffing an artist, because it's really tough to draw a whole script when you feel that way, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure. We have some questions from the audience, I feel like.
We do. I can throw the first one out.
By the way, is just me pouring some tea into a cup. It is not.
You're not peeing.
I'll show you on video, just so you know.
And that concludes our segment Tea or Pee.
Tea or Pee.
I love when we play that game every week.
Every episode.
This is the first time it's ever been tea.
Okay, yeah, we can run down these questions that we have from folks over on ashcanpress.com, ashcanpress.substack.com. This one's from Cleo. They say, I won't be able to make the stream tonight. Then I don't know if I can read your question, Cleo.
I
Is that
think
how
we
it
can.
works?
I think we can. I think we said we
Okay.
could. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask Declan, what's the most exciting thing about the upcoming Alien series, and what's the most daunting? Additionally, what's been the best aspect of the Old Dog creative process? It's standing out as one of the coolest books I'm reading right now, and it really feels like a lot of thought is going into it.
Thanks, Cleo. Cheers. I'll answer that first because it's about me.
That's about you.
So what was the actual? Sorry, what did he say?
What's the best?
Let's just go over that bit again.
They're excited about Alien. What's the best part about writing Alien? What's the most daunting part about writing Alien?
Sure. What I'll say with that is, I'm not actually much of an Alien fan. As in my I know, because I realized
Alien, Moon Knight, you just don't like most of
the
things.
No, I just realized because like everyone my generation loves those films. Like I grew up at that age, and I realized like I'm not mad about Alien, but I just know every writer my generation would kill to do this. So that's why I did it. I took it from them. I didn't see Alien until I was in my 20s. No, maybe 30, and I didn't see. I think I saw Aliens first. I saw Alien Resurrection in the cinema, if that counts. But that was my first Alien film, so I wasn't mad to watch it. But no, I was too scared. Like I said, with 2000 AD, like I'm the generation that would have been all over that, but I was too scared. And the same with like horror films. A lot of the classic 80s films I didn't see till I was in my late 20s because I was too scared. But I mean, I just think when I got offered, it was Sarah Brunstad that offered it, and I just thought there's so many stories you can tell in that world, you know. There's so much stuff that like stuff I would like, atmosphere, body horror, things like that I really enjoy working with. So I just knew I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I'd have fun, and I have been having a lot of fun. The best thing has been. Well, the worst thing is when I told some friends of mine I was working on it, they lost their minds, and they're like, "You can't mess this up." Like non-comic book people, you know, like they don't like superheroes or anything. They'll see the movies, but when I told them I was doing Alien, they got like weirdly angry. Like, you cannot mess this up. So I felt a little bit more pressure than I would on anything else. If it was like Avengers, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, grand." But no, there's actually the fan base is intense.
Did they tell you not to do anything specific?
Not to say that I didn't like Alien when I was a kid. No, and do you know what? There's been some interesting licensor notes, which it's not what you'd think. It's just kind of a lot of weirdly specific stuff that you can't really do, but also weirdly very liberating. Like there's lots of the stuff I thought I would have more problem getting approved hasn't been a problem at all. But then there's all these small little kind of odd notes that like would come out of nowhere, like a character should say this. It's a reference to something. I was like, oh, okay, that's a bit. So do you know what I mean? It's like the stuff I'm kind of expecting isn't a problem, but there's all this kind of back stuff that right. Like any gig, there's always limitations. Getting to write swearing for a Marvel comic, that's kind of weird. But trying to write a really dread fueled horror at Marvel is really cool. Like it's really cool. I think a lot of other people be trying to put that into a superhero book because that's what their real influences are, you know. And I'm just getting to do it without having to kind of like trick the editors or anything like that. So it's really cool. Like it feels like I'm writing a movie in a weird way. That I wouldn't feel like if I was drawing superheroes or writing superheroes, I'd feel like I'm writing comics. There's something weirdly kind of filmic about it. Well, clearly because it's based on a film, you dope. But no, I'm really enjoying it. I know I was just more kind of nervous about like finding the right artist for the book. And Andrea, like I wasn't familiar with Andrea's work before, but once he is such a fan of Alien. Like all the like if I was drawing this book, I'd make it moody, lots of shadows and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have the tech, the reference, all the clothing. I would have to do a lot of reference work to get that right. Whereas Andrea is such a fan, he just has it all kind of down. And once the pages started coming in, I'm like, oh, this actually feels like, you know, it was filmed in the 70s, but it's set in 2000. You know what I mean? That kind of feeling, rather than a feeling like a very clean, shiny Marvel comic. You know, I know it is Marvel Comics, but I just wanted to inject a little bit more of the Dark Horse sensibility in there. because I just love that personally. And yeah, everyone's been really cool. It has not been. I figured it was going to be a bit of a headache, but be worth it. But it hasn't really been. So I'm really enjoying it.
How many C bombs are they throwing around in the book?
I haven't tried that one yet. Issue 3 is going to be where I really drop that one.
Shit!
All right. What was it? Because it's funny, any book, I don't know if you have this experience, Matt, but I remember when I was drawing Injection, there's a scene in the last issue where somebody shows up naked, so he's nude. And I remember writing Warren, like, is this like Marvel naked, where the shadows are over, or naked? And it was like, oh no, like, yeah, naked. So, but I was so trained in the Marvel sensibility that naked to me still wasn't naked. It was just like, seeing the Jim Lee shadows over a big bulky body. But anyway, so was a question with Old Dog. Sorry.
I pulled that part up again. About Old Dog, they said.
Aspect of the creative
just having something from inception to very end. Like nobody else. It's so rare for you to be able to do that. Like no writer will have that experience. That's like the black dark hole inside of Matt. He realizes he'll never have that sense of satisfaction.
That's an oversimplification. I have a lot of black dark holes inside. That's just one of them.
But it has been. I mean, the great thing about doing something with images, you can make wild decisions and do kind of mad things. But being able to have the idea and like just take that thing and carry it right to the very end, to all the creative choices are all done. It's. There's definitely downsides. It can be stressful and stuff, but it's so satisfying. Like, I'm so proud. No, it's been an amazing experience. Like, I think I'll feel better when the first arc is done. I can take a breath, and really like go, yes, that was a brilliant experience, and take out the stress of it. But no, I had friends told me for years there's nothing like it, and they were all right.
Can I ask a stupid question about the book? I can. It's my podcast. The cover stock of the paper, was that your decision to use like the thick board stock for the covers?
Yeah, probably not the smartest because it costs more to print.
I mean, it's funny because I picked them up off the shelves and I was like, the first one I picked up was the issue 1, which was the sketch cover. And so it's on like the sketch, it's on a blank sketch cover. And then I like opened it and was like, normally when you get a sketch cover for a comic, they're like, the A cover is underneath and the sketch cover is just two. And this wasn't. And I was like, that's weird. And then I like looked on the shelf and I was like, oh, they're all like this. And I kind of love it. I think it's amazing.
Thanks, man.
It feels like prestige. It feels nice. It's like
I'm trying to trick people into thinking it's a prestige book,
Sure.
No, like you have no idea how delighted I am to hear this, because I was agonizing over that for ages. I'm like, this is going to cost, like, this is stupid to spend more money just to have a stock cover. But like, I've seen some Boom covers like that. I'm like, well, they probably make enough money, and but like I say, I would never do it on Time Before Time, because any profit made on that book, I want that to go to the creators. I'm not gonna. I'm not going to make a decision that's going to make the book irresponsibly expensive to make. So I wouldn't do that. With Old Dog, though, I thought, you know what? There's no one else can get burned here except me.
Sure.
So if I'm going to be indulgent, now is the time to be indulgent. And it was worth it. When I got the comics, I was like, well, partly I wanted it to feel a little bit more like a file. Like a it says, I mean, not in a. Part of me thought well, maybe I could get the side trimmed. So it's like, don't be, just relax. All right. You want to actually be able to pay rent.
That'd be cool. That'd be cool as hell though, if you got it trimmed.
But because I remember when we did Savage Town, the designer of that book, Emma Price, she said like, if we did a gold, emboss like on the gold chain, that would be cool. It'd be tacky, like all the gangsters. I was like, oh man, that would be savage. And I talked to Image, and like that book would have cost like 5,000 or something just for that small little thing. So, but with those graphic novels, I have on stock, on uncoded stock, because they're not trade collections. They're graphic novels. So I do want them to feel more graphic novel-y, With Old Dog, again, I wanted to feel like a prestige book, because I've never really done this before. So that was a choice. I was worried I would really regret it, but no, I love the feel of the book in my hand. So, and that's it. I wanted someone to go to the stand and pick it up and go, ooh.
Yeah.
But just to know that one person thought that it makes it worth it, man.
And I feel like things like that are so funny because they're these sort of unsung things in comics that you do where you're just like, I don't know if anyone notices this consciously, but subconsciously they appreciate this. And you just sort of tell yourself that, like, they don't realize that this feels nicer and it cost me thousands of dollars, but but they're enjoying it like 2% more because of that. And that's like,
but you have to have that balance of like, is that much money worth? Like, is that much satisfaction worth the money? Generally, no.
Yeah.
Experience, but you know, I don't know. I feel especially if you're doing an image book, you've got to swing wide as you can, you know, to a degree. Otherwise, you're just doing a book another publisher who will tell you can't do something. So, you know, in some small way, I try and do something that like even the double page titles I do every issue, like that is indulgent as hell.
Sure,
you know. But you know what? I'm writing draw my own book. If I can't be indulgent now, then you know, it'll never happen. And I wanted to kind of build a language of the book, you know.
Yeah.
There's going to be an intro page. There's going to be a double page.
Splash. It feels great.
Good, you know. I wanted it to have a strong voice, you know, that you'll notice. But especially by the time you get to issue 3, you'll realize I'm doing it again and again. So, but yeah, sorry, rambling there.
That's good.
No, absolutely. Do we want to do another audience question?
Yeah.
All right, we got one from Dallas Heisler, who says that they are loving Old Dog, but they have a question about the release schedule. With so much on your plate, how do you juggle all the commitments? How many sacrifices can you make, personal time, and how long can you keep it up? They wanted to know if you've thought about bringing in an artist to make the release schedule more regular, although they are sticking around till the end regardless.
I appreciate that. Sorry, I didn't catch the name there. I feel like I'd be a terrible politician.
Dallas. Yeah.
Dallas. Oh man, cool. It's a cool name. Let's start calling myself Dallas.
Dallas Shalvey.
That's good.
No, sorry, I'll try to answer the question. The release schedule, I mean, it's a little short, and I apologize. It's all on me. I started this book at a time in my life where I was basically moved across country. There's some personal stuff that took me away from the drawing board, but I'd already pulled the pin. So the release schedule is caught up with me. I have, as of now, I have inked page 1 of issue 4. So I am working on. There you go. It's like a weird satellite. Oh, there's a lady on a bench, and he's punching the guy. Yeah, you know, it's comics.
This is how I want to read the book from now on. I want you to just tell me that, do that.
Yeah, I'm going to start bring back creator commentaries. But so I'm working on the book. Basically, I just had to take a publishing hiatus. It's back. What month's the next solicitations? May, is it? May. I should always know this. I never do. May. It'll be back. Issue 4 will be in May. I don't know what to do. I think I should try to do a press release or something just to let people know. So I don't want anyone to think the book's gone because it's not. It's just the scheduling caught up with me, and I'm not handing it to somebody else. I just don't want to do it defeats the whole point of doing the book, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, it'll go as far as issue 6, and then the first. I'm calling them Red Acts, so that I can kind of come back to them anytime I want and do a new Red Act. Basically, kind of do them like miniseries, like Hellboy is kind of how it felt like. Because I just know I can't do 12 issues in a year anymore, but I could do 6 good issues. So I don't like making people wait. The plan was to do 6 in a row and then take a break and then release the next 6 monthly. But a bit off more than I can chew because it is a lot of work. I just feel like I'm just doing a pity party here. But no, it'll be back in March. And because I'm working on it now, I'm not doing anything else. Sorry, that's not true at all. I'm doing Alien. but that ties into his question. It is a tough balance.
Yeah.
Managing it all. More so, I just realized I can't do more than a certain amount of covers a month. Otherwise, in my head, a cover takes a day, but really it takes 3 days. And 3 days is most of a work week. And if I'm not squeezing them into weekends, then that is a work weekend. So I just, someone says, do you want to do what am I doing now? I'm doing a Daredevil cover. I was just offered one. I can't turn that down because I suck. But it means I have to turn something else down, so I just have to be more careful with that kind of stuff. But it's a constant. I mean, I don't know how is for you. Like my problem is I put off writing because it's way easier to draw. Like I can just sit down and draw anytime. Writing, I need to kind of like
mentally get there.
Get down and like really concentrate on what I'm doing, and that's what I've done. Concentrate with it, but there's a certain kind of like gear I can go into drawing wise where I'm relaxed. So when I'm trying to write, sometimes I will I'll distract myself by going, you know what, I need to do the layout for that cover. Definitely need to get that layout done. I'll go do that now and go back to it later. So it's tough, but I just have to schedule myself. I just have notes on my phone and I just write down everything I need to do, who I need to email back each hour of the day, and just try hit that. I'll never get it all done, but I find I get like 70% of it done. And but if I didn't have that list, I get 2 things done, you know. But it is hard. So, but and also like I have an editor, Heather Antos, that is my editor, my creator and stuff, and you know, time before time, like tickle tricks by, you know, as it's supposed to. Everything is the deadline because everybody else is doing their job. Old Dog is just tougher for me because I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to put everything I can into it until it goes to the printer. So
I mean, my feeling always on that stuff, and obviously I'm coming from a sort of biased place because I'm a comic creator, but like nobody likes delays in books. No one likes delays in schedules. It's not a fun thing to happen. But at the end of the day, if the book feels like that time was well spent, I'm always happy for it, because the final product being good, and Old Dog feels like a real labor of love. Like it really feels like a book that you're putting your all into. And so that's the kind of thing, you know, that I would hope your audience and I mean, Dallas in his question seems very on board all the way.
That's I mean, I hope that's my bread and butter. Like, because I don't mind waiting for stuff. When you're from the west of Ireland, like you just have to, you just gotta wait. You know, you say something's supposed to come, it just doesn't come in it. So I'm used to that, but I know I'm not every reader, and there's nothing wrong with a reader expecting the book to come out when you said it would. So that's why I have a hell of a lot of kind of Irish Catholic guilt making me feel bad about it. But I do know, like, I know it's going to be the best thing I've done once I finish this first arc. So I'm not going to, that'll be that, but I just don't like saying I'll do something and not doing it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Rosenberg, do you keep a task list? Because you do so much, but you seem so chaotic.
Well, thank you. I have a task list that is chaotic as hell. Let me glance at it. Let me glance at it right now. Where's my to-do? Oh, yeah. 49 things I have to do this week.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it sucks. They don't all get done. Yeah, I mean, I tried for a long time. Like I didn't have a calendar. I didn't keep a calendar. I didn't keep a task list. And I was like, it's all up here. And so my brain is very good at that, but it hit a point where it was just not functioning.
I would say in complete contrast to what I just said, I did make a kind of a change life-wise in the last year that like, you know, the work's not going anywhere. And if a life thing comes up, do that. Because I spent 10 or so years pushing every life thing to the side.
Right.
Sure.
Not all the time, but to a large degree, in order to get to where I am today, to build my way up the ranks of comics hierarchy or whatever it is. And you know, what was the point of doing that if I can't like enjoy it a bit more, you know? So I will say, while I know I feel like shit about the Old Dog stuff, I also know that I'm better in my life at the moment for taking a few breaths where before I would be holding my breath and diving back in. So I think I've got a bit better balance, and you know, I feel like like I said, I felt like Moon Knight was the thing. Not that Old Dog isn't going to be the thing that everybody talks about from now on, but I think I will feel like it's the best thing I've done. And I think when the pandemic hit, I was kind of thinking like, what's the last thing I've done that I'm really proud of? And it had been a few years. You know, not really the join thing I worked on, but like the thing that I would like to have on my shelf. I realized it's been 2 or 3 years since I had something I'm really. Because like the Punisher book I did never came out, and you know, I was kind of doing one shots here and there, and I realized I need to kind of do something.
I read some of the Punisher book. It was really good.
You're the only one.
Yeah, I know. I probably shouldn't say that I read it, but I read. Was there 2? There was 2 issues done, I think, right?
4.
There's
Oh,
4.
wow.
I maybe
Yeah, there was only one left to do. Ed had written it, but I hadn't drawn it.
Yeah.
No, look, I'm not super bitter about it. Like, I would like the book to come out and everything, but it's
It's a great
Marvel
book.
and I think it was like, but when you work on a book you do 4 issues, the book and it doesn't come out, it kind of makes you think, well, what do I really want to do? So I'm glad I'm doing it with Old Dog, and I think I'd like to do a Marvel thing again. I'd like to write and draw a Marvel thing or a DC thing or whatever. I'd love to be able to do balance between both, and I'm actually quite lucky. I'm in a place where I kind of can.
Yeah.
But just for me, I just really want to get Old Dog done and just take a breath after that. But I do apologize for. So there is basically a publishing break from now to May. I don't know. I need to let people know about that. So
we just did.
Sure.
Everybody knows.
Yeah, now everybody knows. Everybody knows now. But but it is coming. Like I don't say it's all written, but I've just already admitted that it isn't written, but I am writing it. But no, I have to finish it. Like I can't do anything else until I finish this.
Yeah.
Well, talking about writing Old Dog, this next question from David is about that, and he asks, "How far ahead is Old Dog outlined? Do you have a certain number of arcs in mind with an eventual conclusion, or is it more open-ended?" Thanks.
It's not open-ended. I know exactly where I'll end it. I know where this arc ends, and like I said, I always knew that, and I know where the overall series will end. So it'll definitely be more than one arc. Just being totally honest, it really depends how well the book does. I don't know if I'm going to need to wrap it up in the next arc. Ideally, I'd like to do 3 arcs, but you know what? The more I've worked in the book, the more space I can see to kind of like play out some long stories, and because I want it to be. I'm sure you can tell it's written to be episodic. Every issue I want it to feel like a new issue 1, but there is a slower backstory that's kind of coming in, and it's like with Time Before Time. We did the first arc, and we didn't know if we'd make it to issue. If we get past issue 5. Then when we did, we knew where we wanted the series to end, and then we kind of it'll be the book was going to wrap up by the end of this year, and we're writing kind of the last issues now. But we're landing at where we wanted it to. Thankfully, we might have just had ended issue 5, and with Old Dog, I'll definitely do a second arc. I just don't know if I'll have to wrap it up in that arc or if I can kind of keep going. What I'd love to do is just be able to kind of come back and do a new arc, and until I know when I want to. I know the very end of the book. It'll be really, really. I'll definitely get there. Sorry, but I'm just thinking about it actually coming out.
Tell us what the very end is.
So
what happened?
But no, what it is really is the runway. I don't know I don't know the issues are okay. I don't know how the book these are all boring stuff that me and Matt would talk about for fucking hours. I don't think anyone else really cares.
What kind of cover are you going to put on the trade? Have you thought about that? Is it going to be thick? Are you going to do a hardcover?
No. No, because I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
I'd love to do. Well, we put it this way. I'd love to do a hardcover. Like say, Time Before Time. I don't know if the book can make it to hardcover. Something like Old Dog, I would do because I'm just that vain.
Sure.
But it depends on when the book's finished. When the book's finished, I'll probably do things like that. But no, they're going to be regular trades. I know we're here. How's the screen work? I'm on one side of the screen, and the end is here, and I don't know if it's this long. Basically, it's definitely going to be 2 arcs at least. 3 was what I was thinking, but the more I've worked on the book, I just think there's so much fun stuff I could do with it, But then again, there's other things I'd like to do too. So, I look how I didn't really answer this question. I'm just stuttering and mumbling, but and it's definitely going to be 1 more arc. But I'd love to go on, and it depends if the book sells well, then I know I'll be able to do that without being in the poorhouse, basically. Because that's the other thing as well. It's just me, so I literally do need to be able to live to get to do the book.
Sweet. We have one question over here in the YouTube chat from Scott Carpenter. I'd also be remiss if I didn't bring up our friend Ryan Michael here in the chat, saying what's up, and that you guys cross paths in New York for New York Comic Con. But But Scott has a question for you saying, when did you know Marvel was going to use Mr. Knight in Moon Knight? Brian Hitch just tweeted that he didn't know about the Authority movie. The movie is probably years from production, but still. Do you know ahead of time?
No. I found out Marvel announced a phase thing. When Moon Knight was announced, that's when I found out. But I noticed that they used the same logo that me and Jordy designed for the book, the kind of moon with the crescent moon for the O. So that's the only reason I thought there might be anything. But I mean, that was 4 years ago, whenever that was. And I didn't know Mr. Knight was going to be in it. I knew about 2 weeks beforehand. And the only reason I knew is because there was somebody who worked in Marvel production studios who offered me an illustration gig for the style guide. So in order for me to draw it, he gave me access to I was given access to production stuff, you know. So there was, so I saw a shot of Oscar Isaac in the big suit, and then I saw somebody with their sleeves rolled up. I was like, "What the hell?" And I looked, and it was the Mr. Knight suit with the rolled up sleeves, and I'd gone to a stage where, like, I don't like taking credit for stuff that has nothing to do with me. So, you know, when you see Khonshu and the skull, I was like, yeah, I designed that skull, but the costume's not what I designed. And, you know, but then when I saw the rolled up sleeves, I'm like, yeah, okay, that's definitely a run, because it's a very specific issue that happened in, you know.
Right.
So yeah, but I'd say that was 2 weeks before that photo was online, the still photo. Like, so I knew just beforehand, but it had nothing to do with, like, it wasn't like an official notice or anything like that. It just happened that somebody who worked in studios was a fan of mine and hired me to do a piece of art. That was it.
That's pretty sweet. We did have one more pop in real quick in the chat. Leandro Damasceno, I don't know how to say that. Sorry. It says, I love Time Before Time. How was it to work in that configuration with a writer partner and, quote, multiple artists?
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Great to know people's reading it. So I knew Rory McConville was a really good writer. I've known him years and years and years, and he was writing for 2000 AD, and I knew he wanted to break in. I think I sent him to Matt one time, and Matt was just like, out of my face. But I'm better than that, you know?
That didn't happen.
No, it's missing. But no, he was great. I just, you know, I'm kind of, I would be known for supporting artists and, like, helping artists out, but, like, you know, trying to break in as a writer is bloody tough. So, you know, like, to help whoever I can. But I had just done Bog Bodies, and I was a bit burnt out. I knew I wanted to do a new creator-owned book, but I was a little burnt out. And I thought, you know, the two of us could probably do something together, you know, whereas I'm known and could probably get a book approved. And, like, if you were able to do a lot of the kind of, like, heavy lifting, there's something we could do together. So that was Time Before Time, and Joe Palmer had finished drawing the graphic novel he was doing called Write It in Blood. So Joe just kind of came over on the book, and yeah, we brought it out. But then after a year, Joe, I think, was just a bit burnt out. He hadn't really done monthly comics at that speed before, so which we didn't. I mean, I didn't want him to go, but because his stuff is so cool and interesting, and really created the whole look of the book. But you know, I was going to do a book that I was writing and drawing. I couldn't tell him he couldn't do this. That's what he wants to do. He's working his own book now. I couldn't go like, no, you can't do that, because I was doing it. So then we kind of scrambled. We're like, oh, we try to find something to replace him totally. And we realized, you know what? Since we're hopping around different time zones, it kind of actually would make sense to use different artists. So that's been fun, because we had Eric Zawadski on, and Ron Salas, and Jorge Coelho now, who, oh my God, those pages are unreal.
Yeah, they're killer.
Unreal. He's so good. Oh yeah, it wasn't your Rocket Raccoon he drew, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Why? I don't get why he's not a sensation. Like, he's a genius.
Yeah.
And yeah, now we have somebody lined up to do the last. Well, plus we've done little one shots where different people have drawn one shot stories, including myself.
Oh shit!
So yeah, that's been a whole load of fun. But a lot of it was just me and Rory bouncing stuff back and forth, and it's been. I really wanted to write. I don't know if you had this problem, Matt, but, you know, even at Marvel or DC, you don't know how long a book's going to be.
Sure, yeah.
You know, not back in the day where you'd be on a book and it could be 5-7 years. You know.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do is kind of come up with something where I could dig in, because everything I'd done was like a short story or graphic novel, and we've got to do that now. So it'll be like 5 books, 6 books by the time it's done.
It's awesome.
Yeah, really, it's cool. It took a lot to get there, and I don't. I'm not sure how much I'd want to. If I was doing another creator-owned book right now, I don't think I'd do an ongoing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Old Dog's different because it's all me, but I don't think I could really promise somebody a book's going to do well past 5 issues anymore. In the current market. So I'm really glad. I feel like Time Before Time came out just the right time that we're able to just stick the landing at 5-6 trades.
Yeah, it's also hard. Like we did when me and Tyler finished 4 Kids. Like we were our whole edict to ourselves was like try and challenge ourselves to do things we're not comfortable with. Like try and make our next book something where it doesn't feel like we're resting on past accomplishments or in our comfort zone. And Tyler's first thing when I said that was like our edict for the book is he was like, let's go ongoing. And I was like, oh fuck, like that's not a good idea. And I tried to talk him out of it, and then he was like, no, let's do it. And then, I remember there was a point at issue 5 where he was just like, man, I'm going to be on this for a really long time, aren't I? And I was like, yeah, 2.5 more years. And he was like, okay. But then like, it's so hard to like keep the excitement going because like comics is so built on fast and quick turnover and new ideas, and you get excited about new things. And
yeah, like we've issued 2020 out last 2 weeks ago.
That's awesome.
I can't believe we've got to 20 issues. It's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, but it's brilliant. I'm so glad of like actually it's the longest because Injection we got as far as 3 arcs, so like this is technically the longest Image book I've ever done.
Yeah.
I just didn't draw it. I do the covers, but that's it, like drawing wise.
It's funny you talk about Rory's contribution to the book because I was working on a time travel book. Like I had an idea and I still want to do it, but I had an idea that I was like really grinding on and like was very excited about. And I remember you emailed me and were like, hey man, do you want to check out my new book? And you're like, it's a time travel book. And I was like, my book's going to be better than Declan's book. I don't have to worry about it. And then I read it and I was like, fuck, this is so much, like there's so much stuff in here that's so much smarter than anything I had. The thing that fucked me up was the moment when they're like, yeah, he got captured. And then he's like, oh, we have to go get him. And they're like, no, he's back. And then you have the hard cut to him back.
Yeah,
he's old. And I just like, my jaw dropped at that moment. I was like, that's such a smart, it's so obviously right in front of you, but like it still isn't. And like, it makes perfect sense, but it's a total gut punch moment. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to close this time travel thing for a little bit and sit on it. And then I was like, fucking Declan just, and I was like, no, it's probably Rory. That's how I comfort myself. I was like, that wasn't Declan.
No, it was good instinct. You were right. No, it's
no, I love the book.
What was worried about that book was like, is it going to be like a battle back and forth or how? Because I never co-written something with someone before, but I talked to 2 different co-writing teams, one of which basically wrote 50-50, and the other basically they pretty big writers, and I didn't realize that like one basically they kind of like had a conversation with each other, and then one kind of like wrote the script and the other one kind of would go over the script. And I thought the proper way to do it was the 50-50, but the people who I talked to said actually it was really tough. Yeah, because you're writing 2 different books and you're trying to like shove them together. Whereas the other way was a lot more natural because you can just basically break the story, and I wouldn't say Roy's the monkey work as in like he's just doing the hard work, but he's doing the time digging in more.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the really good dialogue is him, and and then I'll come in like we kind of say siphon out some pages for me to write, and then he'll kind of put them together. It's probably more work than just doing a book on your own, but we both get to do a book that we both like together, which is I like that way. And I think it would have been way harder to do it the other way. The way I thought was the proper way to do it.
Yeah.
And I loved like I'd hop on a call with Rory where we're breaking it down the next arc, and like we so buzzed after it. But I don't need to sit down and do all the scripts, so that's pretty.
So it's your dream project, basically.
Dream project. So I know I don't mean to downplay. Like I made the commitment that I wanted to write pages for every issue, but I also didn't want to get in the way because I'm doing so much of the stuff. I don't want Rory waiting on me either.
Yeah. So
it's a balance of like getting out of his way, but making sure I'm kind of like like I switched the credits after in the 3rd arc where his name is before mine now, because at that stage he was doing more work than I was, and I didn't want to. As much as I am a glory hog, I didn't.
Sure.
I had enough glory at that stage. I could let some go.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's worth pointing out that Leandro said, John Suntress massacres my last name every time, Ethan. You did very good. Take that, Suntress, you son of a bitch. Famously nice guy.
Or Suintrez. Get that.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
This is a better podcast. You know,
I was on his podcast yesterday. I'm going to say that it's
saw
not,
that.
but
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's not.
Okay.
Declan's a better guest than I am, but
Okay.
do we have any more questions, or are we going to wrap it up? I feel like
That's
we've run
it.
a
We
lot.
do have to
Wrap it up
pick a best question because sponsor of the show, Third Eye
Mm.
Comics, gonna send out some cool stuff to whoever we think has the best question.
Yeah,
I gotta say Cleo is my vote.
that was my vote too.
I agree.
Great.
What was Cleo's one again?
About Alien.
Oh,
The
yeah.
very dense question, you know, what's great, what's bad about writing Alien, and
I
would say what I haven't said in the press so far, or I think which I think is the clincher. Like for me, Alien, it's basically it's Aliens meets The Thing.
There you go.
So that doesn't get you interested. Nothing will.
I feel like
I'd
those
agree.
things have probably already met before, but I love it. I'm in. No, I'm super excited for you to write Alien. I can't quite wrap my head around what it's going to be, and that gets me excited always when I think.
Yeah, no, it's.
I don't
I mean,
know what it is.
I once it's coming out, I'll be terrified because, like I said, every person I know probably wants to write that book, and the Blue try doing the rest development thing. Him,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know what? There's plenty of times I've looked at books and gone him, so I can be that guy for once.
Have you talked to Phil Kennedy Johnson or Brisson?
No, I met
about-
him briefly at New York Comic Con, and we kind of meant to have a chat, but it's
great.
I don't know, like he's leaving the book, so I don't
Sure,
think
yeah.
you want to talk about it. And he's written Superman, so I'm sure he's busy. But no, he was really nice. Like, and he said he was a perfect gentleman. I would have liked to have talked to him at the show, but it's more working with Sarah, and it's pretty cool. Yeah, like the restrictions I thought I'd have haven't been there, so it's pretty wide open actually. Like it's really fun. You'd enjoy it, Matt.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, they didn't offer it to me.
You'd like writing it sometime.
They didn't offer. I worked with Sarah. I love working with Sarah. She was my editor on Secret Warriors, and she's awesome. But I guess the feeling's not mutual because she gave the book to you.
Well, she asked me, buddy. I don't tell you.
Um,
No, I mean, I was surprised. Honestly, I was kind of flabbergasted to be offered because I wouldn't have thought anyone. I was surprised, more surprised than anybody else was, I'd say. But like when a cool opportunity comes your way, you know, grab it both horns, and I just really hope we do a good book. That's what I'm trying to do. A really cool book.
I'm sure it's gonna be awesome. You've been doing nothing but awesome books for the past really long time, so I'm sure it'll be great, buddy.
Thanks, man. Took you this long to tell me?
Yeah, well, we have to have one moment of sincerity, and then we'll
Okay.
revisit that in like 5 years, and I'll say something else nice again.
5 years.
No, I'm a big fan. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I'm a big fan.
It's that news to me.
Yeah, there you go. I guess that's it. Is that the end of the show?
Yeah.
That's the end of
What
the show.
what does Cleo get?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We let Third Eye pick a prize, and they sent it out. And I sort of thought when people got their prizes, they'd be like, "I got this thing, and it's cool." And then I'd find out what it was, but no one's done that. No one's told me what they got. So I'm like, I don't know.
Tell us. Let us know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could. Yeah, one, Cleo, when you. Well, we need your address, but also when you get your thing, tell us. But Third Eye,
Cleo wasn't watching, so he doesn't even know he's gotten it.
Yeah, Cleo doesn't know.
He or she, I don't know.
Cleo, we don't know what Cleo's getting. Cleo doesn't know that they're getting something at all. It's a great big mystery. Only Third Eye knows, and that's maybe the way it's meant to be. But Declan, this has been awesome, super fun having you on the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's just nice to see you again, Matt. So
It's good to hang out. And thanks to everyone who tuned in.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
We're leaving. We're going
done.
out the door. We're hitting the big red button.
Ending.
Should we do a round of applause
see you
for
later.
Declan for coming in?
Round of applause for Declan, and the audience has to do it too. So
Yeah, do it at
everybody's
home.
doing it at home.
Yeah, and we'll know.
Everybody's doing it.
Or
We'll
at
know.
work, or on the bus, wherever you are.
Mhm.
Clap.
If you're driving the bus, clap.
If you're driving the bus, clap on the bus if you're driving
Yeah.
it.
Goodbye.
Bye.